Trucker Dump, episode 176. In today's show, the possibility of a railroad strike is back on the table. The FMCSA gives us a date on its speed limiter proposal. And we'll give you an update on the California AB5 fiasco. Also, the personal conveyance rule was being challenged again, plus 4 things that will increase your chances of a future wreck. All that, plus more, including surprise safety blitzes, road closures, Wreaths Across America, and of course, listener feedback from you. This episode of Trucker Dump is sponsored by Porter Freight Funding. You can learn more at porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump or call 205-397-0934. Turn it up.
Welcome to Trucker Dump, where you'll get one driver's insights and sometimes humorous views of truck driving and the trucking industry, and pretty much anything else he feels like dumping on you. This podcast is brought to you by AboutTruckDriving.com, resources to help you understand the world of truck driving through the use of stories and a pathetic attempt at humor.
Holy smokes, Trucker Dumpers, am I hung out. Hung out, you may say. What the heck is that? Well, that's the term we use at my company for when we are hung out on the weekend. Now, I like to be hung out because if I get hung out, I typically don't have to go out Sunday night if there's a lot of freight. But there is a difference between being hung out a little and hung out a lot. And I am hung out a lot. But I'm not complaining. Now, there isn't a lot of freight right now, but miles are low, as I've complained about in the last couple of episodes. So this week, not so. Killing it so far. I've had a really busy week, and I find myself in Buffalo. Yes, that's the one in New York, and I live in Joplin, which is in Missouri. Yeah. And did I mention this is Friday afternoon? Yeah. So when I come out of bed, I'll have to go from Buffalo to Joplin, which of course I can't do in one day. Well, I could, but I'm not going to. That would be illegal, you know. No, anyway, it's been a great week. I've had plenty of freight for a change of pace and been staying nice and busy. I don't know if that's just a fluke because, well, it probably is because the industry still sucks. I hope you are having an awesome week and everything is going smoothly for you. For those of you new to the show, this guy rambling into the mic is named Todd McCann. I've driven a truck for about 25 years. 22 of that was over the road, and the last 3 years have been in the LTL industry. I've been doing this podcast since about 2012. Actually, I had a blog before that at about 2009, was it? Or was it 5? Dear God, I don't remember now. But anyway, I turned the blog into a podcast in 2012, been doing it ever since. Not very steady for quite a long time, but recently I have been on the ball, totally on the ball, once a week for the past couple of months. Been really killing it. At least in my opinion, I am. So anyway, of course, I'm going to tell you about my trucking ebooks too. Yeah, got 2 of them. One is called How to Find a Great Truck Driving Job. And that just tells, newbies how to go about getting a good job, gives you a list of questions that you can ask companies and why you're asking those questions. It is also a good resource for experienced truckers because that list is there and that will give you a starting point, if nothing else, so you can ask good questions at your interview. And the other book that I have is called Trucking Life, and that describes what it is like to be an over-the-road trucker. It's great for newbies coming into the industry, or if you just want to hear my voice because you're a sicko for 9.25 hours, it's got an audiobook aspect to it also. So you can download both of those books at abouttruckdriving.com, and you can get 25% off on those if you buy them in a combo pack, and that is $14.98. Or you can get each of those books separately on Amazon or iBooks or Barnes & Noble or wherever you buy your ebooks. Although they are a little bit more at $9.99 each. Enough about that. I believe we've got ourselves a fairly short show. I know I say that every single week and it's never short. It always seems to go about an hour, but I think we're actually going to pull it off in less than an hour this time. We will see. You know what would really help with that? If I just shut my freaking pie hole and get on with it. Okay, let's say we start by getting this recall out of the way. This one comes from Great Dane Trailers, about 2,500 models on this one. The affected units are 2023 Everest, Reefer, and Champion dry van trailers. And they are saying the retaining clip in the brake pad retaining assembly may be loose or could detach, which could loosen the brake pad. And as a result of that, they're saying it could reduce brake performance, damage a tire valve, cause a flat tire, become a road hazard, even cause a crash. So Great Dane will inspect it and repair the spring bracket if it needs to be replaced. For Great Dane's customer service number and the recall number, check out the link right here in the show notes to overdriveonline.com. Okay, now if you're listening to this one after Monday, October 17th at 4 a.m., you might as well just skip right over this one because it didn't affect you at all. That's because the Pennsylvania Turnpike is closing a section of I-476 for 55 hours this coming weekend. Well, this coming weekend as I record. So from Friday, October 14th at 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. on Monday, October 17th. They're going to be replacing part of a bridge and they have to shut down both sides of the road. Now they say to avoid the area altogether if possible, but if not, a detour will be clearly defined. Yeah, we know how that works. So just try to avoid the area if you can. Again, that is on I-476. That is between exit 56 and exit 74 on I-476. Be prepared. Found that one on overdriveonline.com. Wish the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission would have given everybody just a little bit more warning on this one, but hey, what do we expect from the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission? Probably the most expensive toll roads in the world. Well, maybe not the world, but almost certainly in the United States. Anyway, overdriveonline.com. You know, we have had an awful lot of safety blitzes lately. It seems like every episode we're talking about some new safety blitz. Well, this time I'm talking about a safety blitz, but it's already passed. So this one was a surprise. Founded on CDLLife.com, CVSA releases results from surprise 5-day hazmat dangerous goods inspection blitz. Now, as a reminder, the CVSA is the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance. Apparently, from June 13th to June 17th, all throughout the U.S. and Canada, they inspected 6,200 vehicles for hazmat and dangerous goods violations. Sad thing is, they found a whole crapload of them. A total of 1,774 violations were discovered. That is a total of about 28%, give or take, depending on my math, which, let's be honest, we can't really count on that, but I think it's right. But they found all kinds of violations. There's a bulleted list here on cdllife.com if you want to check those out. Lots of placarding violations, but honestly, the biggest one was shipping paper violations, which is kind of surprising because you'd think that'd be one of the easiest ones to get right, since it is the shipper who supplies those. Problem is a lot of drivers don't know you are supposed to actually have a full description of the hazmat with the paperwork that you take. So, I mean, your bill of lading could say just miscellaneous product. You know, most of it is from miscellaneous product, but you've got one piece of hazmat on there. Well, it doesn't matter if that one piece of hazmat is 1 pound or 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000, whatever. It has to have a special shipping paper on there that gives basically the full description of the hazmat. It has to have the proper shipping name. It has to have the hazard class, like the 1 through 9. It has to have the identification number, such as UN 1263 or whatever it may be, and it has to have a packing group. If you do not have that paper and you are hauling hazmat, you are illegal. Don't do it. So anyway, that's really all I had to say about that. Just a quick reminder that if you've got hazmat, make sure you're carrying the right documentation and you are placarding correctly. And as a quick reminder, it is the shipper's responsibility to give you the placards and the proper shipping papers, but it is your responsibility to check and make sure they are correct. Because ultimately, we always know it comes down to the driver, right? Yeah, it does. So for this full bulleted list of all the violations that took place here, check out cdllife.com. Hey, you want to hear about a couple of trucking organizations bickering over something? Head on over to landline.media for this one. Trucking Alliance calls hair testing opposition disappointing. OOIDA president responds. So if you are unaware, OOIDA is the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association, and the Trucking Alliance is a group of big fleets, cargo transporters, Dupree, JB Hunt, KLLM, Knight, Maverick, Swift, U.S. Express, May Trucking, and Schneider. So some big names there. And they are all on board for this hair testing, this hair follicle drug testing stuff. And OOIDA is completely against it. And basically this article just goes back and forth about the Trucking Alliance says it's good and that OOIDA's information is false and out of date. And OOIDA comes back with them and says, no, they've got their head in the sand. They're not paying attention and they're only taking the advice of their members. So it's a big mess. I am not going to go into detail here, but if you want to hear arguments on both sides of this hair follicle testing, head on over here, landline.media. All right. You remember the railroad strike that was imminent and everyone was worried about it and the media was all up in arms about it, but the government stepped in and saved the day and reached a tentative agreement and stopped the strike? Well, apparently the government can't do everything. Who knew? Freightwaves.com for this one. Rail Workers Union rejects labor contract, renewing strike possibility. So apparently, even though they did reach a tentative agreement and stop the last strike, which was going to go into effect, I think September 11th is when that was supposed to happen. Well, it stopped it, but only temporarily. Only 6 of the 12 unions in this big contract actually have signed on. The rest of them have not. And the latest ones are the Brotherhood of Maintenance of Way Employees Division. That's the BMWED. This past Monday, 56% of the union members decided to vote against this. This deal included 24% wage increase, $5,000 in bonuses, and an additional paid day off, and they did not think that was enough. Now, the BMWED is a fairly large union with about 26,000 workers. They're the ones responsible for building and maintaining the tracks, the bridges, the buildings, and the other structures. So they are the ones that are in a supporting role. But, you can't run the railroads without maintenance. So without them, this thing is not going through. So just to let you know that this is going to be back in the news, you're going to be hearing about it. And if they don't come to agreement by November 14th, it looks like the BMWED is going to go on strike after all. So to be continued on this one, but just like I said, apparently the government can't fix everything. Who knew? Freightwaves.com. Let the panic ensue again. No business can be successful without cash flow. And that's never been more apparent than when you go to the diesel pump nowadays. Yowza, ouchie mama. That's why there may never be a better time to check out Porter Freight Funding. You can learn more at porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump. Or you can call them at 205-397-0934. And of course, there's links in the show notes. So what does Porter Freight Funding do? Well, they've got brokering services, dispatching, fuel cards, insurance, and compliance, to name a few. But their biggest thing is they are a factoring company. And that means when you're having trouble getting money from a customer, Porter Freight Funding is here to bail you out. Once you've set up an account, or you already have an account set up, hopefully, it's a simple 3-step process. Drop off your load, submit your paperwork to Porter Freight Funding, and get paid within 24 hours. And there's no minimums either. You can use Porter Freight Funding for just your problem accounts, or you can use them for all of your collections. So hey, please check out Porter Freight Funding and find out how they can help your business. Again, you can find them at porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump, truckerdump's all one word, or give them a call at 205-397-0934. Thanks. And thanks to Porter Freight Funding for sponsoring this episode of Trucker Dump. All right. How about a little update on the AB5 situation out there in California? Found this one on freightwaves.com. This one's called Brokerage Solution to California's AB5 Rule Gets Support from Cowan Panel. Okay, I had to look up what Cowan is. There is a Cowan Truck Lines, but this is not who this is. This is a gentleman named Jason Seidel. He is the transportation analyst for Cowan, of course, who is an investment bank, which is weird. It's weird why they're looking at this AB5 thing, but, well, I guess banks are affected by this too. I don't know. Anyway, he seems to be an expert on this, and this whole article is kind of about what his thoughts are on this. And the whole point of this article is that, well, we were talking in the past about how they were going to get around these rules, this AB5, this strict AB5 rule, and how owner-operators, there I go again, lease operators were going to continue to be independent contractors to these carriers. And we had talked about a company called, I believe it was Transforce before, that was doing something called a two-check model where a driver becomes an employee of a third party, like Transforce, and then they lease their truck to the carrier. And Mr. Seidel is saying this method is probably the least popular because you have to comply with the B part of the AB5 rule, the ABC part of that. The B is where you have to, in order to define yourself as an independent contractor, you have to perform work that's outside the usual course of the hiring entity's business. So they're saying that under the B prong of this, you can't be a trucker doing trucking for a trucking company. So that's the hard part of this that they're trying to get around. Well, he's saying there is another popular method, and well, it's not going to work for everybody, unfortunately. It says it doesn't really work very well for small carriers, which honestly is most of independent contractors. So I'm not really sure where he's getting off on saying that this is going to be the best method. It might be for the larger trucking companies out there in California. It sounds like it would be. But anyway, what are we talking about here? Well, Mr. Seidel is talking about the brokerage model. That's where a trucking company transitions to mostly being a brokerage, and they broker their freight into all of these independent owner-operators. Now, the catch here is those owner-operators are going to have to get their own authority and their own insurance if they're now driving under the banner of the company providing those necessities. So like we had mentioned before, driver Chris Mack and I were talking about this, and he is a lease owner-operator, and, that's what we were kind of saying in the past, is that maybe this is how it's going to have to happen, is that these lease drivers just go out and get their own authority and then work with these companies separately. But the extra added part of this that is kind of new is that the trucking company would no longer be a trucking company. They would be a brokerage. But again, they're saying this is very hard for the smaller carrier to do. There's all kind of loopholes to jump through and stuff, and it's just not going to be very likely for them. And as a second alternative, they say you could always just, make all those drivers employees, which totally defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do here. We're trying to keep these lease operators independent, not work for a trucking company. If they wanted to work for a trucking company, they would have worked for a trucking company, directly as an employee. And when all this came about, they would have just said, hey, let's go work for the trucking company and be an employee. But they don't want that. That's the freaking point. So anyway, there's more details on this one, but that's the gist of this article. So if you're interested in it, head on over here to freightwaves.com, and they seem to be really good at keeping up on all this AB5 stuff. All right, sort of sticking with the AB5 thing, but not really, kind of tangentially related, I guess. Let's head on over to Transport Topics. That's ttnews.com. This one's called Trucking Weighs In on Independent Contractor Proposal. So here's what's going on. The U.S. Department of Labor has proposed a new rule that's going to set new guidelines for what is considered an independent contractor and what is not. This is going against the Trump administration and what they had in there, which was generally regarded in the trucking industry as favorable to independent owner-operators. Seems like there were just two main factors with Trump's regulation there, and that was the nature and degree of control over the work and the worker's opportunity for profit or loss. But this new thing that the U.S. Department of Labor is suggesting has 6 parts. And, well, honestly, it's early in this process, and all the trucking organizations are looking at this, including the ATA, the American Trucking Association, and OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Driver Association. Everybody's still looking at this, trying to decipher it and see whether it's good or not. No matter what the outcome, it seems like it's going to be better than the AB5 thing going on in California, because that B part, like we just talked about, is really hard to comply to, and it almost makes any independent contractor in the trucking industry not qualify. So they're saying these 6 factors here will give an independent contractor a better chance at actually staying an independent contractor. But again, they got to look into all the details and make sure they're reading this right. These 6 factors include, the first of these is the degree of the alleged employer's right to control the manner in which the work is to be performed. So how much control do they have over you, the independent contractor? Second one is the worker's opportunity for profit or loss depending upon their managerial skills. That one's a little bit more interesting, because I know a lot of independent contractors that lease on just let the company handle everything for them, and they basically just get a paycheck. So that one might be a little bit hard to pull off. Interesting. Although I guess they do have other things, depending on, that cover whether they have a profit or loss, like, what loads they accept and how often they run, and if they want to lease or, buy their own truck separate from the company and lease to them, or how all that works. Yeah, I guess I could see that. That makes sense. The third one is the worker's investment in equipment or materials required for their task or their employment of helpers. Number 4 is whether the service rendered requires a special skill. Number 5 is the degree of permanence of the working relationship. And number 6 is the extent to which the service rendered is an integral part of the alleged employer's business. Now that one is reminiscent of the B part of the ABC test. So we'll just have to see about that. So anyway, if you have any skin in the game here, you are going to want to jump on this. The Department of Labor posted this on the Federal Register on October 13th, and they will be accepting comments for 45 days. So do not delay on this. If you are a lease driver, this could affect you greatly in the future. So weigh in on this. Get informed. Check out this article. That's just a start. And then, learn all you can, and then go put in your comments on this. Okay. And again, this article is on transport topics. That's ttnews.com. Okay, let's say we give you a little update on the speed limiter crap that the government is trying to shove down our throats. Found this one on landline.media. Speed limiter proposal eyes June 2023 unveiling. Yep, while things have not been completely decided yet, the FMCSA apparently is going to be going through with this and submitting to the Federal Registry on June 30th. That's their plan right now. That's of this coming year. And of course, there will be a commenting period on that at the time. Now, as I don't have to tell you at all, this is not a popular idea. The FMCSA asked for comments on this earlier in the year, and they got about 15,000 comments, and the majority of them came from truck drivers who adamantly opposed this mandate. We all know what this would cause, right? There'd be trucks running side by side trying to get around each other. OOIDA points out that there is a 227% increase in having an accident when you're traveling 10 mile an hour below the speed of traffic, which we know we would be if we were in speed limited trucks because cars haul butt. To confirm that, there was a study in 2006 from the University of Arkansas that also found that speed limit differentials cause a problem on the highway, more wrecks. And we've got speed limits right here in the United States of 80 mile an hour or more. And these truck limitations are going to be maybe 20 to 25 mile slower than the flow of traffic around that. Man, that is messed up. And that is because they have floated possibilities of 60 mile an hour, 65 mile an hour, and 68 miles per hour. That is what they have talked about in the past. They still haven't decided on what they're going to try to promote here, but we'll know by June, that's for sure, because they will decide on a mile per hour. But another thing this article does not point out is that another idea that has been floated is that trucks could be governed at a different speed depending on the type of truck, or not the type of truck, but the type of safety features on it. So for instance, if a brand new truck has automatic emergency braking and, the lane veering feature and all of these new finagled safety features, that maybe it could go faster. But if it's an older truck that doesn't have all those new finagled safety features, it would have to go slower. Now, as I pointed out here on the podcast, that's just stupid. I mean, I get what they're trying to do, but you could have a driver that's only driven for 3 months and they're in a brand new truck with all the fancy whistles and everything on the safety stuff, and they can go, say, 68 mile an hour or 70 mile an hour. But a veteran who drives a truck from, 2007 or something that doesn't have all these fancy features, they got 30 years of experience or 40 years of experience, but they're going to have to go 60 mile an hour. That is just plain freaking nuts. Let's not go down that road. So anyway, I just wanted to give you a heads up that this is coming. So be looking for it in June of 2023. I'm going to be all over the top of this, and I'm going to be suggesting that every single one of you get out there and make comments on this, because we do not want this passing. Man, what a mess. They'll figure it out eventually. No doubt about that. But we want to ward this off before it even gets to that point. Again, I found this one on landline.media. Oh boy. We just talked about speed limiters in trucks, but hey, what about speed limiters in cars? This is a different type of speed limiter though, and boy, I'm not very thrilled about this one. I believe we've talked about this in the past, but it's been a while. Found this one on landline.media. NTSB in favor of new speed limiting system. Now, the NTSB is the National Transportation Safety Board, and they are all behind speed limiting cars by GPS. Yeah. This is where it's a smart car, right? It's got GPS in it, and maps know what speed limits are in certain areas. And the whole idea behind this is if the speed limit says 50, the car will not let you do more than 50, no matter what. They've got an example here. Mira Joshi, she was the acting FMCSA director for a while, and she is now the deputy mayor of operations in New York City. And they are doing this on about 50 of their vehicles. And she says the way this works is you can just put your foot all the way to the floor and it is just a dead pedal. It just won't go any further. You can mash it all the way to the floor, but it's only going to go the speed limit, no faster whatsoever. Now, I know in theory, sounds like a great idea. Nobody would ever speed, but man, talk about an overreach, right? Matter of fact, Carl Brower, who is an executive analyst for iSeeCars.com, told CNN the average consumer may view this speed limiter technology as an overreach by the government. You think? Wow. I've mentioned this before, but can you imagine having a Corvette that won't go any faster than 80 mile an hour? Because, 85, I guess, because that's the top speed limit in the U.S. But, here you got a Corvette, you'd like to get around that truck, but you can't because everybody's going 50 mile an hour. That is insane. Oh, what is wrong with the government? I tell you what. Landline.media for this frustrating article. Let's hope to God this never comes. After that last article, I'm not a big fan of the FMCSA, but finally, they've made a good decision about something. Yeah, I know. I couldn't believe it either. OverdriveOnline.com. FMCSA denies petition to add limits to personal conveyance. Now, honestly, I can't remember if I knew about this or not, but apparently the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, or the CVSA, asked the FMCSA, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, to add a maximum distance and or time a driver can use personal conveyance. Now, in CVSA's petition to the FMCSA, they said, quote, a driver could, in theory, drive hundreds of miles over the course of several hours, all under the designation of personal conveyance, end quote. Well, they are right about that. I'll give them that. And they also touted that in this year's International Road Check Safety Blitz, 42% of all driver out-of-service violations in the U.S. and Canada were falsifying logs. And quite often, that was because of misuse of personal conveyance. So with that kind of evidence, you'd think the FMCSA would go, oh, okay, anything against truckers, that'd be awesome. Yeah, let's do it. But they didn't. Can't believe it. Although the FMCSA may stab us in the back once more, because they did say while there's not enough data to support a new rulemaking right now, they put the CVSA on a mission to, quote, to monitor and collect additional data because we don't believe that this issue is going away anytime soon. End quote. Fabulous. Isn't that great? Well, the FMCSA did stand on the trucker side for now, so I guess we'll give them an attaboy until they backstab us again. Check out this article over here on overdriveonline.com. All right, here's one from cdllife.com, which will hopefully make you look at yourself and hopefully avoid a future crash. This one's called Study Finds That Truckers Who Did These 4 Things Increased the Likeliness of a Future Crash by 100% or more. This study was done by the American Transport Research Institute, or the ATRI. And the first of these 4 is the failure to yield right-of-way violation. So if you've had this kind of violation before, you are 141% more likely to have a crash in the future. Well, that makes sense. If you're not yielding the right of way like you should be, well, guess what? You're probably going to have another wreck. Number 2 is failure to use or improper use of a signal. Yeah, you can see that one too. That's 116% greater chance of a future crash. Number 3 is a prior crash. That's 113%. That one kind of surprised me, honestly. You'd think you would be all on top of it. You'd be not complacent at that point. But everybody gets complacent, right? And if you had one crash, well, they're saying 113% likely that you're going to have another one sometime in the future. Bummer. If that's the case, well, I guess I'm doomed. I've had some minor ones that weren't really my fault, but hey, bummer. Anyway, the 4th one is reckless driving violation. That's 104% greater likelihood that you're going to have an accident in the future. So if you've had any of those violations or situations, just be looking out for yourself a little bit closer. There is a much longer list on here, including failure to obey traffic signs, improper lane change, speeding violations, hours of service violations, all that stuff. There's a full list here in the link if you're interested in that. Just go to the show notes, click on this link right there for cdllife.com. And just be careful out there, okay? Cool. In today's day and age, it's always good when we find out there's a new truck stop opening because that means more truck parking. And that's why it's great that CDLLife.com is telling us about a new TA Express truck stop opening in Illinois. You will find this one out on I-72 at exit 108. This is near Riverton, Illinois. The store opened on October 3rd, so they are good to go. Here's what they got going on over there. 43 new truck parking spaces, a Little Caesars, and a Taco John's. Yeah, baby. Love my Taco John's. 4 showers, 5 diesel pumps, and of course, Def at the Pump, driver lounge, laundry facilities, video gaming terminal, and a CAT scale. Well, this is good news. If anybody's familiar with I-72, they will know there is not a lot out there. There's a couple of small ones, and there is now a Love's somewhere out near, where is that? Is it out near Jacksonville, Illinois? Well, it's somewhere out there on I-72, and, it's got a Taco John's too, so that's good. But hey, any new truck stops, any new truck parking is awesome. Check out CDLLife.com if you can't remember where the heck this new TA Express is located. All right, let's finish up with a way you can help. Found this one on overdriveonline.com. Wreaths Across America. You ever heard of this? This is where volunteers go out and put wreaths on the headstones of American heroes on December 17th, which is National Wreaths Across America Day. And of course, this is to honor the fallen heroes from our military. They're going to be delivering about 2.5 million wreaths this year, and they need help. You can sign up right now for this. Just go to the link here in the show notes and click on the link here to register to participate. And apparently they have a whole bunch of lanes open right now where you can carry some across the country and get these things delivered by December. So if you're interested in that and want to do your part to help honor the troops, have a look at this and please consider doing it. It's a really cool project. So with that, we're going to wrap up the news. There's no Trucker Grub segment again, although I will have to say I got back through the Burrito Junction in Corbin, Kentucky at the Pilot again, and I tried the breakfast burrito this time, and it was pretty darn good, gotta admit. And the breakfast burritos are a little bit cheaper. If you remember from the last time I talked about this, that I thought they were a little bit expensive, but you know, that's me coming from a cheapskate. But I think my breakfast burrito was about $7 or $7 or $8, something like that. It was still good sized, had the eggs and everything else you could possibly want in it. And it was pretty darn good. Filled my tummy right up. But hey, if you're interested in submitting your favorite restaurant that you can get to in a truck, please do so. All you have to do is record a quick little audio session. Just open up your iPhone or your Android phone, look for your little voice memo app in there, tap that record button. Tell me about the restaurant. Tell me where it's at. Tell me where you can park. Tell me your favorite meal. Tell me the atmosphere. Tell me your experience there. Tell me why you like it so much. It doesn't have to be perfect. If it's a little messed up, I'll edit it. No big deal there. So when you're done recording, just stop that recording and send it off to truckerdump@gmail.com. But hey, we're not ready to finish quite yet. Thankfully, people are still writing in with listener feedback.
Hey, yo, bud, where do you want this load of feedback?
All right, looks like we got 3 pieces of listener feedback on this episode. One of them's actually a little bit old, but hey, well, a little bit old for me is, like last year. This one isn't that old. It's from September. This one's from John. He commented on the blog post, Truck Dump 27, Hauling Hazardous Materials. He comments, I wish more authors of this type of comment would take the time you did to research and write so well. I am very impressed with your vision and insight. Now, when I get a comment like that, I always think it's somebody who probably just leaving a link or something to something that they have written and, hey, I'm going to comment and compliment you. So, hopefully you'll leave this in there, although I didn't see that anywhere in this comment. So John, if your thing is legit here, I appreciate that. If you're just trying to get on the website and in the podcast, well, mission accomplished. Next, we're going to hear from Matt McKellar, who goes by Mountain Matt over in the Trucker Dump Slack group. Now, Matt probably doesn't even know he's going to be on the show because I didn't tell him. But anyway, in the last episode, we talked about the surprise blitz that was going on in I-70. That was in Indiana and Pennsylvania and where else? Ohio, maybe? I don't remember. I don't remember. Anyway, short-term memory. I'm old, man. Give me a break. Anyway, this was just a surprise that they kind of last minute thing. They were just warning people like one day before it started, and they were going to be doing a blitz all across those states on I-70 only, just trying to stop people from speeding, inspections, all that good stuff. Well, Matt wrote in on, like I said, the Trucker Dump Slack group, and he wrote, hey, I got inspected on I-70 in Indiana on Sunday. Might have been the blitz or because I was hauling hazmat, but clean inspection and the dude was nice, so all good. Yes, that is all good, Mountain Matt. That's awesome. I don't know if your company does this, but a lot of companies will pay you a little bit of an extra bonus if you pass a DOT inspection with flying colors, so you might want to check into that. And congrats on getting away clean and not having to have the officer get a latex glove out. And lastly, we're going to hear from Donovan, or DJ, you choose. I choose DJ. He writes, "Hey, my name is Donovan, but I also go by DJ, whichever you prefer." DJ, I'll go with that. Nothing wrong with Donovan, just DJ's cool. He goes on, "I'd like a link to the Slack group because I'm finally starting on my path to becoming a truck driver. I've been a semi-long-term listener, specifically since episode 123, where you talk about advice for new truckers. That episode was my first episode I ever listened because I was a 16-year-old kid interested in trucking and wanted to do that. Wow." He says, "I'm 22 now, which isn't that much older, but it feels like ages." It is ages older. It may only be 6 years, but maturity level, you're way up there. He goes on, "I've been driving since I knew what a car was. I first learned to drive on my dad's stick shift, and one of the first times I was behind the wheel was when I was in my uncle's lap helping steer around the parking lot while he operated the pedals, and guess what the first thing I did? Turned hard straight towards a parked car. No crash, but it definitely gave my dad and uncle a heart attack." Yeah, I bet. I'm going to go ahead and break in and tell a quick story about a kid driving a truck also. Back years and years and years ago, we were visiting, the evil overlord and I were visiting her uncle and aunt, and they are about her age and, well, closer to my age actually. And they had a young son, which is, the evil overlord's cousin. And he was, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 at the time. Nah, he might have been older than that. Might have been like 10. But anyway, they wanted to go for a ride in the truck. So I loaded up the uncle and the cousin and took them out on the road. And to their surprise, I asked him, the uncle, if he'd like to drive. And he was like, "What?" I'm telling on myself, but this is an old company. They'll never know. So anyway, I just did the old team trick where you just kind of pop out of the seat. You're cruising down the road, got the cruise control on, and I just hopped over there and in the passenger seat and said, "Here, have a seat." And he drove for a while, really enjoyed it. Well, of course, the son was now really, really jealous. So when I got back in the seat, I put him up on my lap and he drove quite well for quite a while. Actually, I was a little surprised him going down the road like that. We were going about, 60 mile an hour, 65 mile an hour, whatever my truck would do at the time. And he was just doing pretty good. I chalk it up to video games, but it's just that a kid of that age has no attention span whatsoever. So as long as he was paying attention, he's cruising right down the lane, just perfect. But, eventually something goes by and he looks at it and off we go. So anyway, it was a fun ride, very memorable for both dad and son. And I just had a blast letting them do that. That's good stuff. And thankfully, DJ, they didn't give me a heart attack. So that's good. He continues. "Anyways, I won't bore you too terribly much with my past, as I can ramble just as well as you." I doubt that, DJ. He says, "If I do say so myself. Next time I got a lot to say, I'll do audio." Awesome. "But I'll be real with you. I'm at my current job right now, and I don't think they'd appreciate me blabbing into a voice memo about leaving here and going for a trucking job." No, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't like that. Back on the subject, I'm on my way to start looking for some schools, and an interesting thing was reminded to me by the whole grants thing from the last episode, in that I have an opportunity to have my schooling completely free, or at least heavily discounted, because I made not too much money the year before, and I'm going through the job service center in my city. Not sure if all cities have that or if we're just unique here, but I would recommend looking into that sort of stuff. They're specifically there to help job growth in their city, so they'll pay for a lot. Not even just trucking, but trades and schools in general. For context, I live in Kalispell up in Montana, right where the 2 and 93 meet up. Anyways, I'll cut this short as I could go on, but I just wanted to let you know you got one more guy coming into the industry. See you on the road, cowboy. Also, cheers for entertaining me weekly. Oh, yeah. Well, DJ, you just sent me an email, so consider your debt paid. I love emails. And I especially love emails from young listeners like this who 16 years old when he first listened to the podcast, and now 6 years later, getting ready to get into the industry. I just love that. It's just awesome. But anyway, DJ, you can thank Dave Wiedemann, who goes by @Mohican in the Trucker Dump Slack group for that. You can thank him for yourself when you get in there, because he's the one that reminded everybody that grants are a thing. And yes, I think most big cities, at least, do have some sort of a job assistance thing, and a lot of them are willing to train you, like you said, in the trades. They'll help you with typing skills, whatever whatever you need, they will help you to get a job. So be sure to look into that, just like DJ said. And thanks for the reminder on that, DJ. Appreciate it. All right. With that, we are all caught up on listener feedback. If you've got something to say, be sure to drop me a line at truckerdump@gmail.com. I always prefer audio comments, but I will take anything you want to give me. You want to comment on a past episode, on a news story that was talked about recently? You have a news story you'd like me to talk about on the episode? I'd be happy to look that up and give you some credit for it. I'd appreciate it if you send a link to that article along with your email. That would be very, very helpful. Save me some time. But again, I just love audio comments. They are special to me. I just love hearing other people's voice on the episode. Just keep those around 3 minutes or less. Try to turn your truck off if you are driving a truck, and, make it nice and quiet. If you mess up on it, don't worry about it too much. I will be happy to edit it for you so you don't sound like an idiot. Trust me, you've heard my bloopers, right? I can make myself sound somewhat sane, despite all of what the bloopers say. All right. Well, let's pack it up and get on out of here. What do you say? But before we do, how about we thank our sponsor, Porter Freight Funding. You can learn more about them at porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump, or give them a call at 205-397-0934. And since this is an affiliate link, be sure to let them know that the Trucker Dump podcast sent you. Actually, in the future, we are going to have a special number just for Trucker Dump listeners, so they know you're right where you came from. How awesome is that? Thanks, Porter Freight Funding. You guys are awesome. So with that, let's pack it up and get out of here so I can get some freaking sleep. It's a long way from Buffalo to Joplin. This time around, I think I'm just going to try to guilt you into helping me promote the podcast. So if you even remotely enjoy the show, or at least begrudgingly stay up to date with the trucking news, do me a favor and share the love. However you listen to this episode, there's almost always a share button in view. I'm just asking you to tap that and share this episode on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, or wherever you hang out online. See, that's not too much to ask, is it? Come on. Feel free to tell a friend or colleague about it too. Anyone who doesn't gets the cold shoulder next episode. Nah, I just appreciate you listening every week. So with that, I'll just say, until next time, drive safe and stay out of my way. So Great Dane is going to fix it for free, obviously. If it needs it, they're just going to check it out. And if it needs it, so Great Dane will This article comes from freightwaves.com. Brokerage solution to California's AB5 rule gets support from Cowan Pantel. Pantel? What the hell is a Pantel? So here is what's going on. The U.S. Department of Labor has proposed labor. Why can't I say labor? So here's what is going on. So here is what's going on. The U.S. Department of Labor has proposed. Now, Mr. Seidel is saying that is probably the least popular way to go about this, and that is largely Picard. On one part, they think, well, it's a 6-part, and they're going to weigh everything as a total instead of just going off that B rule, off the AB5 thing, the ABC rule. That the B part really screws things up and really messes things up. But they're saying with these 6 factors, all in, looking at this 6 factors with the total. Jeez Louise, I suck. Start over. Good God.